Hello everybody and welcome back. It is good to talk to all of you again today, and today we're going to take a look at the work in progress Tier 9 British destroyer, the Jutland. And now do keep in mind, because this is a work in progress ship, anything I talk about can and potentially will change by the time the ship makes it to the live servers. So what do I think about this Tier 9 destroyer? Well, I gotta say, I like her more than I like the Tier 10. Yeah, most of you are going, really? Yeah, I do. Now, the Daring has definite advantages, obviously, being a Tier 10 destroyer. Her torpedoes do more damage, and her guns are quite a bit more faster, daka. Yeah, they fire a hell of a lot faster. But I like the Jutland more. She just, for me, feels more like a destroyer, and it is probably due to two, maybe three small things that makes me feel this way. One, the Jutland is a touch bit more stealthy than the Daring. 5.5 versus 5.7. It doesn't sound like a lot, right? It actually doesn't sound like a lot, but I feel like even that 200-meter difference does allow you to get the first spot off on a lot of the other destroyers in the game right now. Well, with the Daring, you're often the one that gets spotted first. Now, there is a big difference when you get spotted first or when you are the one doing the spotting first. It allows you to get into better positions, right? You're more the person who is able to anticipate an action rather than sort of react to something that's happening. If you're the one spotting first, you can better set up for the engagement, while if you're the one reacting, you're going to be the one who's going, oh crap, somebody spotted me, where are they, what is it, and then you have to react to it. And the first one is definitely better than the second. And so Jutland, being at 5.5 surface attack, is going to have the edge on most other destroyers she encounters, while with the Daring, you're gonna get spotted first by a lot of other destroyers. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, and this is common to most of the higher tier British destroyers, they're not particularly fast. So if you get into trouble and you need to run away, it's a hard thing to do. You don't have a speed boost and your ships are not particularly fast. So your survival mechanism, if you start to come under a little bit of fire, is to dodge, to weave, to try to make sure that the enemy can't hit you. And so Jutland, being a little bit more agile and a little bit faster on the rudder than the Daring, makes it a little bit easier. But there's sort of one final thing, and it has to do with the size of the ship. Daring is big for a destroyer. Like, she's really tall, and she is relatively easy to hit because, remember, like I said, she's not particularly fast, not like super agile. You know, her rudder shift is close to sort of 4 seconds. You know, her turning circle radius, not terrible, but she's just a tall ship, and she does happen to get hit easier than the Jutland. Jutland is a lower profile, much more sort of traditional destroyer-like, and I do feel like that helps when she is trying to evade fire. Just doesn't eat as many shells as the Daring does. Other than that, yeah, like I said, Daring has the advantage with slightly faster rate of fire, but the Jutland's guns are, you know, they're fine. They're perfectly good in destroyer combat. The arcs are pretty good. You've got 6 guns in total, which is always nice, including 4 at the front, and you have 1 duel in the back. You know, the ship is reasonably compact, as you can tell. But yeah, so all in all, yes, Daring does have that advantage, right? The torpedoes do a little bit more damage. But remember, for the British destroyers, torpedoes are not exactly your main armament. They're useful, they can help get those flooding, they can help with that kind of stuff, and they can definitely assist in trying to take out larger ships, but not everything. Another thing to keep in mind with the British destroyers as of the moment is that they only have a widespread and single fire, where I think the preference would have been narrow spread and single fire. For some reason we have wide and single. And with widespread, it's just not good enough for a lot of situations. I would much prefer narrow and single, and hopefully that is something that will change, because that is something that is on the British cruisers, and if, you know, national flavor or whatever holds, then we will get that particular change. All in all, the torpedoes on these higher tier British destroyers, I would say definitely they're usable and you can do decent things with them. Of course, at close range, the single fire is amazing as you can just dump a whole bunch of torpedoes at the same spot, and you know it can also allow you to shoot one and go, oh, I made a mistake, and of course adjust your aim as well. But for targets at a distance, I mean, yeah, I mean you can do some cute patterns with the single fire torps, but generally I just find the narrow spread to be just very much more useful because torpedoes tend to arrive at a much more sort of consistent interval, right? Compared to with the single fire, we have to click, 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 and maybe sometimes the timing isn't all that perfect. But still, like I said, perfectly usable torpedoes, and like the Suzumo is finding out right now, once I have them flooded, my guns can really go to work, and the British destroyers, the high explosive fire chance is no joke at all. I mean, within that very short period of time, I put 3 fires, I believe, onto that Izumo, and the poor guy is just gonna burn to death. Well, I mean, unless somebody puts him out of his misery, like there. Ah, it was the Zhao who did it. Anyways, moving on. One of the major roles I do see for the British destroyers is to actually go deal with other destroyers. They have pretty damn good stealth, that's the first thing. And second of all, if they catch a target, their guns can really rip someone a new one. Now, do keep in mind, these are 114mm guns on both the tier 9 and the tier 10, so even to deal with other destroyers at this tier, you do need IFHE, because if you don't have IFHE, you're not actually doing any damage with the high explosive. However, I do have to also point out, the British destroyers have short fuse armor-piercing shells. That means if an enemy destroyer decides to give you a broadside, you can royally screw them with AP, because your AP damage, you can get upwards of what, 3.5, 3.6k a salvo, and at the rate of fire that you have with the tier 9, tier 10, if an enemy destroyer decides to go broadside, you can really screw them up, like, very, very quickly, right? So it is definitely something to consider as well. If you get a target that's giving you that broadside, especially a destroyer, at close range, go for it. If you have an enemy destroyer, of course, that decides that they're going to smoke up in front of you, well, you do have the hydroacoustic. Of course, you understand your speed isn't the most amazing thing on the planet, so make sure you don't overextend, and that is going to be a very player skill dependent kind of thing. So far, the feeling I'm getting from the bit of playing I've done with the Jutland and the Daring is that the Royal Navy destroyers, these are going to require skill to play well. They're not as forgiving as some of the other nations, and like I said, if you get yourself into trouble with these destroyers, you can't always get yourself out. They're not that fast, right? With other destroyers, they can just turn tail, hit the speed boost, and just zoom out of there. With these ones, well, I mean, with the Jutland, for example, your top speed with flags is like 35 point, I think it was 35.7 or something, I can't remember exactly, but it's in that range of speed, and it's not particularly fast, right? Speaking of which, here we go, in this engagement here, enemy Yugumo, right? A ship with really, really good concealment, and I'm gonna get pretty darn close, and by the time the Yugumo detects me, already within range that I'm gonna be able to detect him as well. And in a gunfight in this kind of range, I'm most likely gonna win. Now you will notice that I did momentarily decide to go to armor piercing, and that is because for a second there I thought this Yugumo was going to go full broadside to me and give me that shot. Of course, the Yugumo did not do that. Continue to stay sort of bow in, and this is the reason why you would need IFHE, by the way, because if you did not have IFHE, that Yugumo angling in that particular kind of way, well, your AP wouldn't have done anything at all. However, like I said, if you catch a destroyer broadside, you can tear them a new one with no problem whatsoever. Okay, so with the Yugumo taken care of, I'm now going to head back up and help my team retake the sea cap. Map awareness with the British destroyers is actually going to be a very important thing. These destroyers, like I said, not particularly fast, so you don't want to be stumbling into enemy radars, or you don't want to be stumbling into an engagement that you can't get yourself out of. Just consider that there are actually some cruisers in the game that if they carry a speed flag with them, they're faster than you are. And you can't run away from them, right? So like situational awareness being aware where the enemy ships are, where they're likely to pop out against you, all super, super important. Now, initially, I'm looking at this Cleveland here, and the Cleveland is broadside. I can actually engage with guns, but at first I'm like, do I really want to open fire, give him the only target to shoot at? And the answer initially was no, but of course once he got hit a little bit, got down a little bit more, decided, okay, I'm just going to open up right away. I'm going to finish him off, and yeah, that Cleveland's done. Got a little bit lucky there at the end. Darn, 12 damage, but there we go. Got that Cleveland out of the way. Alright, now going to take this cap again. And for me in this particular battle, you'll notice that a lot of my playstyle was, you know, defending caps, being around caps, retaking caps. Cap contests with these destroyers I think is going to be key. And of course, the fact that you have a hydroacoustic, if you're in front of the fleet, you can do some screening for them, and of course you can spot the torpedoes early and make sure your team has a better chance at dodging them. But yeah, all in all, those are my sort of initial thoughts about the ship. I really do like the Jutland. I just think she's a really well-rounded destroyer. It's got these good guns, you know, that good fire chance. Although, do keep in mind that the British high-tier destroyers do need IFHE, which is, you know, it's an interesting scenario. It absolutely requires to have that 4-point skill, but overall, I would say the build works for me. Oh, there is one other thing I forgot to mention, and this is the same thing that happened when I was talking about the Nueve de Julio, the Boise review video I did yesterday. The Jutland has the choice, do you want to upgrade the fire control, right, to get more range? And yesterday in the other video I talked about how range is a bit of a double-edged sword. Sometimes you fire and you're spotted on the flank by someone who's quite a bit further away at your gun's max range. And in those kind of situations, you actually want your gun range to be less. You're still comfortably engaging targets, but you want to be spotted from like sort of less further away. And the Jutland has that choice. And I actually preferred the 12-kilometer fire control because you're getting close enough with these destroyers anyways that the 12-kilometer was fine. And I wanted to be more stealthy. With daring, you don't have the option. I think your gun firing range is like 13.8. Which means when you shoot, a lot of things are going to spot you. And a lot of things are then going to take pot shots at you, which, because she's a bigger ship, not as agile, she will take hits. Alright, and so this is, again, one of the reasons why I said I did like Jutland more. This is just a ship that was, like, lower to the water, just a smaller target, and a little bit more agile, a little bit easier to dodge things, right? And it made a difference for me. Now, again, your experience with a ship when it finally does make live server might be entirely different, and this is something that, you know, and I'm not sure if I've ever really talked about it, but it is definitely something that you have to understand. When a CC, especially someone who is, you know, well known or whose name will get recognized in battle, and they're in a test ship, it's like everybody and their mother wants to shoot at you when you get spotted. So sometimes you have a feeling up for a ship, and this is typically why when I want to do preview or review videos, I will generally try to play like about 20 battles before I make a decision on a ship. And that's because it's sometimes you get into battles where you just get focused so damn hard, and you're just like, wow, really? Like, sometimes you'll have a situation where you're like the full HP guy, there's somebody like super damaged next to you, but some guy 18 kilometers decides to take a pot shot at you, and you're like, but he's spotted too, shoot him. And it just happens, and it's just, and that's why sometimes it's like I said, you know, when you're watching videos about a ship, you know, there is never one person who is absolutely right about something. Try to get a whole bunch of different opinions and see what gameplay and what experience kind of fit more with maybe how you play and how you experience things, because not everybody has the same playstyle, and not everybody's going to have that same kind of experience in game. Just saying, right? Because it allows you to get perspective on things. Anyhow, wow, I totally got off track there by a lot. I think I was talking about the firing range thing. Yeah. So for me, having less firing range and being more stealthy when shooting my guns is something I want, and the Jutland offers that to me, and the daring doesn't. The daring I always felt like just you know, open fire, get spotted by everybody, and priority target number one, like instantaneously. With Jutland, I was able to do more. I was able to shoot more and be a little bit more sort of stealthy, because ships on my flanks had to be closer in order to spot me, right? Anyways, okay, so most of this battle, if you've watched it, I spent my time obviously around caps, defending them, retaking objectives. Like literally, that's destroyer life. If you're in this kind of a destroyer, you're gonna be spending quite a bit of your time in that area. Your damage totals maybe not always the most impressive thing, but your base experience should be fantastic because you're gonna be earning a lot of the defended ribbons. You're gonna be getting a lot of cap ribbons, and not only that, but the ships that you engage and the damage that you do tends to be really, really valuable. There's a pretty significant difference between getting, let's say, 50,000 damage off a battleship, which, by the way, at tier 10, you're not even killing one tier 10 battleship, versus getting 50,000 damage off of destroyers, because that is the equivalent of killing off like 2 tier 10 destroyers. And the game calculates your experience based on this kind of stuff, right? So the damage number, not always the most important. It depends on where you get your damage from. So my first bunch of damage, which was off the Izumo, not the most valuable, but the damage I got off of the Yugumo, for example, that's significantly more valuable damage, right? And even at the end of this, you'll notice that like my damage total isn't exactly spectacular. I think I had maybe somewhere around 80-something thousand damage, but for that amount of damage, my base experience was like 2,200 something. It was quite a lot of base experience. And I've had games where, in a destroyer where I've done maybe 60k damage, but have finished off easily at the top of the team with tons and tons of experience, right? So with the British destroyers, if you are playing that particular role, as long as you're doing your job right and you're getting the right kinds of damage, the valuable kinds of damage, and you're contesting and defending caps and so on and so forth, even if your damage totals are not amazing, you're going to do really, really well experience-wise with these ships. They're very, very capable at that role, right? Like I said, the good guns combined with the good stealth, the hydro, these ships are very capable in that role. Anyways, finally I'm over here and I'm gonna go finish off that midway, initially shoot some HE, set some fires, and then of course transition over to AP, and there we go, get the kill. And that's about it. Total damage at the end, 85,958, 199 shell hits, 2 torpedo hits, 4 planes shot down, 3 ships destroyed, 6 fires, 2 full capture ribbons, 1 assisted capture. I mean, experience, lots of experience. Base experience there, 2218. Obviously got the bonuses from camo and flags and stuff like that, but good EXP total. Friendly team midway was pretty darn good. Enemy team midway wasn't actually bad either. There we go, total damage count as well. High explosive, 22,000 damage, at 38,000, well 37,000 with fires, a little bit with flooding. Got some 20,000 damage with like torpedoes. In terms of credits earned with premium account, 239,000. Without premium would have been 120k. So all in all, pretty decent little battle. Get to show you a little bit about the Jutland and what she is capable of and what she kind of does. What do you think? Looking forward to the Royal Navy destroyers? Not looking forward to them? Things that you liked, didn't like? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. Do keep in mind, if you leave a comment there, you are entered for a crate draw. Yeah, and I'll pull some names and I'll announce it in the next World of Warships video. Anyways, folks, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to all of you again soon.